Hi everyone, I think we're going to get started now. My name is Natalija and I'm the application specialist here at Total Materia. So we're going to go over what Total Materia has to offer in terms of solutions, who we are as a company, and how we could help resolve your material challenges. If during the webinar you have any questions, please add it in the questions box and I'd be happy to get back to it maybe at the end of the presentation, or I will send you a personal email answering all those questions. You'll also receive a recording to this webinar after it's finished. Maybe tomorrow you'll receive an email, and you could always share that link with others in your organization. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and I hope we could help with some of your material challenges. Now let's go over a solutions overview of Total Materia. Don't worry, we're also going to get into the application as well. Before we speak about the product and all our different capabilities, I wanted to firstly speak about the history of our team. We started as Kita Metals back in 1999 with 13,000 metals in our database, in our materials database. And throughout the years, as you see, we added different ISO certifications, partnerships, even added non-metallic materials, an enterprise management solution, compliance, and we actually came out with a new interface just last year. Our headquarters are in Zurich, Switzerland. Our development office is in Belgrade, Serbia, and we have customers in over 100 countries. Our team consists of subject experts that created the database, support specialists around the world, and an own in-house IT and software engineering team that could help cater our solution individually to other customers. Of course, what is Total Materia? Total Materia is a curated materials properties database and a materials decision-making tool. We have over 500,000 designations on the database, so we're very confident that you could at least find some properties that you're looking for, as well as the material. But on top of all that material information, we also provide different tools to help you decide on the right material for your design project. Just to briefly mention, we also have a second solution called Integrator. Integrator is a company's private material database, and over there, we could add in approved materials to ease the material selection in a company privately, different in-house testing data, documentation, and intellectual property. And luckily, both these systems talk together, so you can have both capabilities in terms of external and internal material information. But for the remainder of the webinar, we'll be focusing on Total Materia. And if you're interested in hearing more about Integrator, please send us an email and we'd be happy to share a presentation with you. All in all, Total Materia as well as Integrator solves and documents material challenges, allowing engineers to work faster and, more importantly, with more efficiency. We're also a software as a service solution. All you need is the registration, username, and password, and you're ready to go into the platform. Our product could be deployed almost instantly, and we have over 26 different languages to choose from on our platform. And it could be accessed anywhere with internet connection. Here are a few ways how our solution helps our customers. Firstly, of course, it eases material selection by searching for material information that's reliable and curated by engineers. You have the ability to compare different options to find the best one for your design project. Check out its compliance. After doing all this different material searching work and finding out at the end your material is not compliant would be definitely an issue. But with Total Materia, you could quickly check out its compliance statuses with over hundreds of different regulations. And we also have global equivalences. You could quickly find different global equivalences around the world from both standardized information and other sources. It also allows you to share all your findings, report on it, export material properties to other tools for simulation perhaps, and also manage your materials. And when I say manage your own materials, You could favorite different materials and make a list of your frequently used materials so you could quickly access the material information you're looking for. And finally, as I mentioned in the previous slide, it increases efficiency and also could speed up the approval process when deciding on a material for the next project. And all these different things help a company save money, your time specifically, and also improves your material decision quality. I'm going to share with you now some of the current problems that could be avoided with Total Materia. We actually collected all these different phrases from our current customers. Of course, the first problem that could be avoided, no material data at all. Lower quality data, non-comparable information, constantly doing the same searches, finding materials that are of higher cost, inaccurate simulation, multiple different information silos, lower quality data, compliance issues, and I'm sure we could go on and on about all the different challenges that you might be currently facing. But now we're going to go over all the different data sets that is included in Total Materia and all the connected data to the heart of our solution. Firstly, we have metallic materials information. We have over 370,000 commercial metals in Total Materia. And over there, you could find basic mechanical and physical properties, different heat treatment diagrams, machinability, magnetic, and metallography data in terms of different microstructure diagrams. And of course, to not forget, chemical composition. 70% of this information come from standards, and about 30% come from producer data sheets. On top of our metallic materials information, we also have different non-metallics in our database as well. We have over 130,000 non-metals, comprising of polymers, composites, fibers, ceramics, wood, honeycombs, foams, and I think a couple more material groups. And you could also find their mechanical, physical properties, thermal, electrical properties, and other properties as well. As you know, most non-metallic materials are not standardized, so 80% of our information come from producer data sheets and about 20% from standards. So everything that we could get, we try to add it into Total Materia. So as I mentioned before, on top of all the different properties we also have different compliance statuses available in Total Materia. We cover over 100 different regulations, noticeably REACH, ROS, FDA, biocompatibility, and you could also see different lists of substances of concern that we update on a monthly basis. On top of basic mechanical and physical properties, it's very important to understand how the material might perhaps corrode or be chemically resistant in different mediums. That's why we also provide over 100,000 data sets in terms of corrosion information, chemical resistance as well for plastics, weatherability, aging, and irradiation information. And most of this information comes from technical handbooks that are usually depicted in different diagrams or different symbols, but our engineers take the time to curate that information so you could quickly find what you're looking for in our database. We also have different data in terms of welding, brazing, and adhesion information to see how your joint's going to react when two different materials are perhaps welded together or two of the same materials, tribology information, how two materials test against each other, dimensions and coatings tables digitized from standards, and as well as lubricants information. And of course, on top of everything, you always have to add in your materials to different simulations. And that's why we also provide advanced material properties, stress strain curves, formability information, fatigue, fracture mechanics, and creep data. With having all those different data sets available, how could you trust Total Materia with us having over 500,000 designations? We built in a tool called Tracker, which quickly helps you see on a material level all the different updates we've done, what we've removed, what we inserted. So if you're looking at a list of set requirements or set of materials, you could quickly check out on a month-to-month basis what we add in the database. You can see that we actually currently update over thousands of different materials per month. And we're the only ISO certified materials database in the world, triple ISO certified and Veracode continuous certified. In terms of those ISO certifications, what's more important? What is the most important? Quality and reliability of the information in Total Materia. We also cover 80 standard organizations coming from 37,000 standards. You can see that we cover standard organizations from across the world, thousands of producer data sheets. You could cross-reference between those different international standards as well as producer data sheets to quickly find an equivalent in a different country, as most companies are becoming more global every day. You have a reference listed for every data value. You're never going to wonder where we got this information from, because for every single data point, we always add in a reference. We also have patented algorithms to find similar materials based on properties. And 100% of the data is compiled by subject experts, as I mentioned throughout the presentation. And those subject experts are chemical and mechanical engineers that take the time to make sure this information makes sense in terms of all the different conditions, the type of material, to make sure that you're getting the most reliable, up-to-date, and best material information. So after adding in all these different data sets we have, speaking about that, we also provide different tools and integrations to help support your team as a whole. This is what compromises usually of some sort of engineering team in a corporation, or I'm sure one of you can actually relate to one of these different people in our slide right now. Of course, on top of the different data sets we have, material specialists and product stewards need to monitor different legislation, validating specifications, and also the material specialist needs to have all the information readily available, not just having basic mechanical and physical properties, but also understanding how the material behaves in different environments. So our material specialist needs all the different data sets, and our product stewards need to know if the material is compliant or not to a specific regulation. So what we created is a tool called Compliance Assessor, which instantly assesses all the different materials and substances compliant to specific regulations. And having all this information readily available in Total Materia, there's also a tool called Material Console, which helps you save and create material lists, reports, save searches, and bookmarks. It essentially is your own private materials library that you could create on your own and also be able to share information around the organization. For our quality folk, we have a metal identifications tool that could quickly identify your metallic material based on chemical composition. For supply chain, purchasing, and sales, it's very important to quickly find cross-references and equivalent materials if one is not available, let's say in a specific region or even a country. We also have information on different suppliers around the world, so you could quickly find if the standard and the form of the material is available in the country you need. And last but not least, our CAE, simulation specialists, as well as CAD specialists. Having reliable data and being able to export it almost instantly to different formats could be of very much help. Instead of constantly creating your own material cards, copy-pasting different data, you could quickly export material properties to over 26 different simulators and formats. To name a few, you could see Abacus, SolidWorks, CATIA, different Altair products, ANSYS, Alice Dyna, and many more. And if all else fails, you could always export some properties to Excel. And of course, having advanced properties for simulation really goes a long way. Having reliable stress strain curves and fatigue data so you don't have to always constantly go and test your material and utilize that information. And of course, having those basic material properties always helps out as well in appropriate conditions too. And of course, having your own private materials library at the click of a button could really help organize the whole team, and everyone could be on the same page. It limits any repetition, as well as everyone's utilizing the same material information, so there's not going to be any discrepancies throughout the team. So now, after hearing me speak about all our different data sets and functionalities, I want to show you in our database how you could find all those different materials and information, and how you could really help utilize Total Materia to solve some of your current issues. So just give me a minute to switch my screen, and we're going to go into the platform itself and go through a short demonstration. So we're going to head over to the platform. You can see my picture here. It's going to be taken down today because this is the last webinar. So this is the home screen to Total Materia. As you see on the top here, before we get into all those different data sets and functionalities you see where I'm pointing, you could actually go between metric and imperial units at any point. I know that we have many users utilizing those units, and as well when you're perhaps sending off information and you're not really used to one of the types of those units, you could quickly go back and forth, create a report on the material, and help who you're sending this material information to utilize those materials. Sorry, not utilize those materials, but utilize the units that they're most comfortable with. And on top of constantly switching through units, most importantly, you could switch through 26 different languages at any time. Since I'm sure some of you are working with other people around the world, and perhaps always using your native tongue might help out someone somewhere around the world. Excuse me, just had to cough, and I muted myself so no one would have to listen to that. So on top of all those different functionalities I was speaking about, we also have different ways of searching for materials in Total Materia. The simplest way of searching for materials is utilizing our quick search functionality. All you need to do is type in a material designation and also its standard. You could type the standard on this filter bar here, or simply just type it in to the search bar. And you could quickly find what you're looking for. You could also search by different types of materials. We have data on 3D materials, adhesives, coatings, lubricants, substances, and even bulk materials. Search by material groups. Select multiple standards and also the producer name as well. Already having your material designation would be the easiest step to all of this. But of course, sometimes you don't know the specific material you need, but you have certain criteria points that you have to make up. That's why we created advanced search. You could add up to 200 different properties and try to filter the material based on that criteria. Under general information, you could always choose the material group, type, standard, and for our non-metals users, if you want to search by reinforcement, simply select the non-metallic group and you'll get these two filters, reinforcement. So if I need a glass fiber content of a certain percentage, simply select the reinforcement, even the flame retardant if necessary, and you could also search for these non-metallic materials if it's biodegradable, bio-based, or recycled. And you could also search by application in our full text search. So if you need a material in terms of pressure vessels, you could type all of that in and be on your way. Also, adding in a chemical composition range, perhaps a carbon content of a certain percentage, maybe a tensile strength at a certain value, even at a certain temperature, over 200 properties, as I mentioned, for mechanical and physical. And lastly, for metallic material users, we have our special search. And under special search, you can filter through materials that have different heat treatment diagrams, metallurgy information, machinability information, as well as magnetic properties. So imagine you going through all these 500,000 material designations when you don't have to. You could utilize advanced search and be on your way. And we also have the option to search by different standards. So as an example, I'm going to see all the different SAE standards Total Materia has. Simply type in SAE. I see that there's over 2,000 standards, and on top of seeing the standard number, as well as a short description, and of course the latest version, we have also different indications. All the materials associated with the standard in Total Materia, dimensions and coatings tables if available, as well as different related standards. And finally, the last way you can search for materials is utilizing material discovery. Material discovery is a great tool to utilize if you're not quite sure which material group to choose. So if I need to check out two properties, let's say a yield strength and a tensile strength, if I select show results, you could also switch the temperatures as well. You can see the vast ranges we have for ferrous alloys, so from 20 to 2,950. Of course, that's a very large range. But if I want to add in certain criteria points, let's say my material needs a tensile strength of at least 1,500. I could see based on my list, polymers didn't make the cut. So I could definitely conclude that polymers can't be my material. Perhaps I could utilize a composite, ferrous alloy, non-ferrous alloy. And if I want to do further investigation on one material group specifically, I could deselect all of them, double click on the diagram, and then see from the subgroup level how they communicate. Because not all non-ferrous alloys will have at least a tensile strength of 1,500. So perhaps I could utilize an aluminum, a cobalt, zirconium, titanium, but I can't use a beryllium alloy, zinc, and some ones that are grayed out, and even a rare earth and similar metal. And of course, you can always forward this information to advanced search to add in more property criteria to find exactly the material that you're looking for. So after going through all the different ways of searching for materials, now we're going to go into a material itself, and I'm going to show you how we present the data in Total Materia. So I'm going to type in classic 304 IC stainless steel, select the material, and I'm in my material right away. On the right-hand side, you notice there's many different properties and numbers. That means this material has, let's say, 24 stress strain curves, over 1,000 mechanical properties, over 2,000 materials that are cross-referenced globally, and the rest of it. 10,000 conditions for corrosion information, even direct suppliers. So you don't have to go through each of these data sets individually. You could quickly find what you're looking for on the right-hand side. You could even add your material to Material List Builder. We're going to go over Material Console, your own private materials library later on. Adding different diagrams and different properties to report in case you want to send that over to someone who's approving the material. Exporting materials with the click of a button, as well as bookmarking certain pages. And on top of everything, each of these different properties have individual condition selectors. So for mechanical and physical properties, we have two different views, synthetic and details view. Synthetic view is a great way to utilize if you want to be in and out of the database. And let's say for 3 or 4, instead of wasting my time going to details view and adding in different conditions, I want to quickly see if this material has any high temperature data. Simply select over 300, and I can see, luckily, I have both a yield and a tensile strength. But we're going to go into details view so I can show you all the different conditions we have at room temperature. So again, we have our same temperature condition selector. I could actually go through and filter through different references. We separated our references in two places, official for official standards, as well as other references, journals, books, engineering textbooks, online sources. You could even filter by heat treatments, forms, dimensions, and properties. As you see for room temperature, we have over 170 conditions out of 182. And if I scroll quickly at the bottom, you'll see for this material, and only for mechanical properties, we pulled 40 different references from. So you might ask sometimes, okay, if this information is available in the standards or different sources, why would I go with Total Materia? Now imagine, how long will it take, or would it take, to pull all this information from these 40 references? And sometimes it's not easy to find exactly what you're looking for. As an example, I want to find some property values in the form of wires from 30 to 100 degrees. One click, two, filter through one of my conditions. I scroll down. I can see my reference here, so I know where I'm getting that information from, the specific condition. And luckily, I have two diagrams, a yield strength and a tensile strength diagram, and properties. Click on View Diagram, and I have different property values from 38 to 200 degrees, so I could quickly see how the material would behave or how the yield strength will decrease over temperature. And I could also view tensile strength. But let's say I wanted to create a report on this material. I could quickly add it to Report Builder. I could re-access it through Go to Report. And then you could see that I was re-accessed back to Material Console. And I could always save the report, download it as a PDF, and even share it to others in the organization. I wish I could show you all the different properties we have available, but I'm going to highlight some of our key components. We also have different microstructure diagrams. Our in-house engineering team provided these very visible microstructure diagrams. And if I select on one specifically, you can see the condition and always the reference here at the bottom. And most importantly, you could always print this off quickly by adding it to Report Builder, so you don't have to take any screenshots. We also have different stress strain diagrams. Again, you have a condition selector for each specific property value, so you don't waste your time searching through all these conditions. Luckily, we only have 9 here, but sometimes we have many more. So I'm going to try to find the stress strain diagram in the form of billets at a strain rate of 0.1 to 1. I'll just scroll at the bottom, and I find some high strain diagrams from 800 to 1,200 degrees. Now, let's say, and this is at a strain rate of 0.1. So now let's say I want to quickly export this information. Instead of copying and pasting, I could quickly export it to an ANSYS file, or an XML file to be exact. Export to CAD, select ANSYS. So I just clicked on the arrow here, ANSYS. I could even select multiple properties, but for the sake of the webinar, only going to be focusing on stress strain diagrams to start. Type billets, so I don't have to scroll through everything. And I know my strain rate was 0.1. Select which curves I want to export. Make sure it all makes sense, and then export. So I don't have to copy paste anything. I don't have to put in a new material card. I get my zip file and my XML file here. So that's how easy it is to export data. to other solvers. And most importantly, this is reliable information. You have a reference here, so you know where we got this information from, and you could be certain when you're utilizing your simulation. Also, fatigue data, very hard to come by. Low cycle and high cycle fatigue data we have in Total Materia. Now let's say I want to see how this material performs when it's welded by a certain welding method. I can see it has over 10 conditions, or exactly 10, not over. And I could see the electrode, the welding method as I filter through it, some conditions, and also the property of the joint. So 3 or 4 and 3 or 4 welded together. But perhaps I want to take a look on where I could buy this electrode, or all the other different materials it could weld. Simply click the hyperlink. I see that it could weld over 130 other materials, and it'll also indicate here if certain materials are different that could be welded together. It would be this plus another one. I could also check out its cross-referencing table in case I can't find this. Seems like don't take this the wrong way, but it seems like it's a German material. So if I want to quickly find an American equivalent, I could utilize my cross-referencing table, and I could also check out its chemical composition. Of course, always having the ability to see how it's behaving in different environments. So one good thing about corrosion is that we have so much different data on it and so many different mediums, but sometimes it takes a little bit to load because there's over 10,000 conditions. Let's say for 3 or 4, I want to see how this material behaves in nitric acid. Simply select that. I have over 102 conditions. I can pick the concentration. I could also see the temperature, maybe below 330 degrees, some room temperature data, and I could see its corrosion rate automatically. And if I want to do further investigation on corrosion, I could simply go to the data set itself, same with stress strain curves, fatigue data, and the rest of it. And if I want to search for some specific material groups or to make sure a specific designation has, let's say, different corrosion type or weight change property, corrosion rate, a certain diagram, you could really utilize the data set specifically to find what you're looking for. And on top of that, you could always find suppliers' information for materials. But now let's go back to Material Console, and you'll see under My Console, this is my private materials library. I have my favorite materials, bookmarks, saved searches, different material lists, as well as reports. And I want to perform an advanced search that I've already saved from before, so I don't have to repeat the same thing. So I'm going to repeat my ferrous alloys DIN and GV search, load it back up, and beside the load button, there was a little icon. That means you could actually share the link to others, and instead of taking, again, a screenshot of this, quickly send that out so they could see what you were doing. So now it's referencing back to those 500,000 designations, and I'm looking for a GB material or a DIN material, structural and constructional steel with a certain yield strength, minimum 300 at 100 degrees, and different property values. And I found 19 materials. But let's say I want to compare these materials, or quickly see if it's compliant or not, or simply send it as a list. Simply highlight them, add it to our material list builder. Now I'm redirected again. Remember, report builder, My Console. Now I'm in material list builder. And if I want to quickly check out its compliance, add it to compliance assessor through that page. Select my country of regulation. So I'm going to select REACH Article 59. And I would be able to see how they're compliant. You might ask how, and simply it cross-references its chemical composition and makes sure there's no substances of very high concern in the material. So I could go through all of these to make sure it's okay. If all of them are compliant, now it's my time to see which one has perhaps the highest yield or highest tensile strength. I could simply go back to the list, add it to comparison view. Analytics is my favorite way of comparing these materials. This looks very similar to material discovery that we went through. So when I click on show results, you're going to see these different points. And these points are the average of the ranges, as I'm showing you now. But if I select rectangles, I can see the full range of these materials. And let's say I need a tensile strength of at least 800 and a yield of 400. Simply add those search results. On the bottom, you can see all the materials that are grayed out and the ones that are good to go. And if I'm on the cusp of perhaps this material, some of the conditions are lower, some are higher, I can select the material itself, see where the yield strength is in terms of different temperature. Sometimes we also have different conditions around different temperatures. So you see at 450 degrees, your yield strength would be too low. And this one at bars for sucker rods would be at the highest. And same thing for tensile. So bars for sucker rods would be the prime condition for this material to make sure that we coincide with our property criteria. Now, before we speak about next steps and how you could really learn more about Total Materia, I know we couldn't really go over all the different capabilities, but I hope I gave you a great idea on what's available. I just want to simply show you how you could view a non-metallic material. So I'm going to pick a fairly common material called Macrolon 1095. So we're here under Macrolon. Same thing again, on the right-hand side, you can see all the different properties we have for this material. We also have compliance information since we receive different SDS sheets from the producers. For compliance assessor, quickly adding metals in is great because you could quickly go through the chemical composition. But as you know, for non-metallic materials, we usually don't have enough information to deem if it's compliant. But luckily, all our different producers mention in their SDS sheet if it's compliant or not to specific regulations. If you're interested in a specific regulation, you could always reach out and I'd be happy to help. And most importantly, it's very difficult to find non-metallic materials that are equivalent in terms of our cross-referencing table. As you saw for 304, we had over 2,000 similar materials. But for Macrolon 1095, since it's not really standardized, it's not standardized in terms of an actual standard, it comes from a producer. We only have one that isn't even identical or an official equivalent or has the same chemical composition. We only have a material that comes from another source that is deemed identical. So if I do a quick compare on these materials, okay, I see they're both polycarbonates. There's only one mechanical property as well as one physical property. But that's why Total Materia created Equivalence Finder. And if, let's say, I want to find a material with similar strain rate, similar density, coefficient of linear expansion, and maybe even modulus of elasticity, I could add in all those different criteria, add in the search sensitivity, medium plus minus 10%, high plus minus 1%, and low plus minus 15%. I could add all those different criteria and quickly see if there's any material that has the same properties like Macrolon 1095. And luckily, there's over 100 that I could choose from. And you could, again, always add them to Material List Builder if you want to save it as a list, do further comparison, because in analytics, you could add up to 100 materials, and also forward them to different data sets if you want to quickly check, okay, which ones have stress strain diagrams. You could also add the tab here and see, let's say, if it has any impact values, maybe even yield, and you could add up to 7 different criteria. So I hope you were able to learn some things here today. So now I'm just going to go back into the presentation. Oh, we're not going to restart the whole thing. since we only have a couple of minutes left. So I showed you all our different components today, but of course, that might not be something that you're looking for. Sorry, I forgot to show smart comp. It's just due to lack of time, but essentially add in a chemical composition, and then you'd be ready to go to find that material based on that. So out of all the different components we have here today, actually, let me just show you quickly since we have 3 minutes left. I don't know why I didn't think of this before. Well, I usually show it in the beginning, but then I kind of got sidetracked and I completely forgot until I saw that diagram. So now we're on smart comp here, and I could input a chemical composition, but I already have an Excel file that I can import. On our new platform, you'll also be able to import different spectrometer files from some of our partners. But let's say I have this chemical composition and I want to identify this material or find the most similar material to it. Simply click on search and I'll get a list of those materials. I could even change the similarity threshold, so I'm at about 70% similarity, even select a specific standard. And instantly I can see that this material is probably this GB material designation, and I could go from there. So with Total Materia, you don't have to actually go with all the different packages. We have so many different options that could help you choose the exact components that you need to solve those material designations. Not designations, challenges. So here are the next steps. We actually offer unlimited multi-user access for 2 weeks as a trial period, included with technical support and numerous training sessions. So the first step would be, of course, understanding your needs and to see with all these different capabilities that we have, how could we help you specifically to your problem? Is it finding materials right away, finding global equivalents, checking if a material is instantly compliant, so you don't waste enough time and also money if it's not? Finding your material users would be the second step. Check our data, of course. Explore all our features. Validate your success with having Total Materia. Does it provide, or does it help you speed up the approval process? Are you more efficient? Are you wasting less time finding other information? And finally, at the end of this, we hope we could solve your problems. So thank you everyone for listening to me today speak about Total Materia. I really hope we could solve some of your material challenges. Here is my contact information. You could also ask any questions now in the questions box. I'll stay a couple more minutes in the presentation. But again, we appreciate you taking the time to learn more about Total Materia. And if you think Total Materia could help with some of your challenges, please reach out by email, by phone, and you'll also be receiving the recording to this webinar. So feel free to share it around the organization. Again, thank you so much. I will stay 1 or 2 minutes to see if anyone has any questions that I hope I can answer. And I appreciate, again, everyone taking the time to learn more about Total Materia.